It does not begin with a roar. It does not arrive with thunderous declarations or visions of a burning galaxy. It does not come with horns and wings and screaming choirs of the damned. That is the end of the journey. The beginning is quiet. The beginning is a doubt. It is a thought that feels like your own, an idea that takes root in the fertile soil of resentment or pride, or a love so fierce it would break the world to preserve its object. It is the whisper that follows a prayer the God Emperor did not answer. It is the sudden, clarifying warmth of a power that does. Chaos doesn't take you all at once. That is the part nobody warns you about. It is not a fall from a great height, but a slow, gentle descent down a slope so gradual you do not realize you are descending until you are at the bottom, looking up at a light you can no longer bear. It is a series of compromises, each one logical, each one justifiable, each one a single step on a path that leads to an unimaginable abyss. This is the foundational lie of the Imperium. That damnation is an external force, a monstrous legionary from beyond the veil. The truth is more severe. Damnation is a seed planted within, nurtured by the very virtues the Imperium demands. It is the pride of the perfect warrior, the ambition of the brilliant scholar, the desperation of the abandoned son. The great enemy does not need to break down the gates. It is invited inside, welcomed as a friend, an ally, a savior. And when the gates are finally thrown open from within, the one who does the opening no longer recognizes himself, believing his damnation to be his greatest triumph. To understand the seduction, one must first understand the cage. The Imperium of man is not a civilization of hope. It is a fortress built upon 10 millennia of fear, a monolithic edifice of dogma and ignorance ruled by a silent, enthroned corpse, whose light is but a guttering candle in an infinite dark. It is a regime that demands absolute faith, unquestioning obedience, and ceaseless sacrifice. It tells its subjects they are the inheritors of humanity, yet treats them as fuel for an endless war machine. It preaches the divinity of man, yet crushes the slightest deviation from its ironclad creed with overwhelming, pitiless force. For the common man, life is a prayer whispered between the grinding of factory gears and the crack of the overseer's lash. For the soldier of the Astra Militarum, it is a desperate scramble for survival in a galaxy that hates them, their only reward a death anonymous and unmourned. And for the Adeptus Astartes, the angels of death, it is something else entirely. They are forged to be more than human, paragons of loyalty and martial perfection. They are indoctrinated from youth, their minds scoured and rebuilt, their bodies sculpted into living weapons. They know no fear, for their God is the Emperor and their faith is his shield. Yet it is these demigods, these perfect sons, who are most vulnerable. Their virtues are grander, their flaws more profound. The very qualities that make them supreme are the same qualities the ruinous powers find so irresistible. The pride of the Emperor's children under Fulgrim, their relentless pursuit of perfection in all things, was a virtue until it curdled into a desire for sensation, for an experience so exquisite that it transcended morality. Slaanesh did not offer them corruption, it offered them transcendence, the thirst for knowledge of the Thousand Sons. Their belief that all lore was worthy of study was a noble pursuit of enlightenment. Tzeentch did not tempt them with lies. It offered them truths the Emperor had forbidden, answers to questions their father refused to acknowledge, the stoic endurance of the Death Guard. Their ability to withstand any hardship was their greatest strength. Nurgle did not promise them power. It promised them an end to pain, a final, blissful acceptance of decay, a father's love that would never abandon them to the uncaring cruelty of the galaxy. And the furious, righteous anger of the world eaters, their desire for justice and their unfiltered passion for battle, was the heart of their legion's spirit. Khorne did not need to whisper of glory. It simply unchained the beast that was already there, offering a universe of skulls for a throne that was already being built in their hearts. The lie is that chaos tempts with evil. The truth is that chaos tempts with what you already believe is good. It finds the crack in the soul, the resentment, the ambition, the love, the despair. And it pours itself in, not as a poison, but as a balm that soothes the ache you were told you must endure in silence. The first touch is always a gift. It is never a monstrous transformation, never a grotesque warping of the flesh. It is subtle, it is useful, it is a vindication. For the warrior pinned down facing certain death, it is a sudden surge of strength, a moment of preternatural clarity that allows him to turn the tide. He does not see a daemonic pact. He sees the Emperor's will made manifest through his arm, a reward for his faith. For the scholar wrestling with a forbidden text, it is a flash of insight, a whisper of understanding that unlocks a passage that has baffled wiser men for centuries. He does not hear a demon's voice. He hears the muse of discovery, the spirit of true knowledge rewarding his diligence. For the remembrancer striving to capture the sublime beauty of a Primarch in his art, it is a moment of impossible inspiration, his hands moving with a grace and skill he did not know he possessed, creating a work so perfect it brings tears to the eyes of all who behold it. He does not feel the touch of the Prince of Pleasure. He feels the divine fire of creation itself. The gift works. It solves the problem. It saves the day. And it feels good. It feels right. It is a confirmation that your path, your ambition, your secret desire was correct all along. The Imperium demands sacrifice and offers nothing. The powers of the warp demand only that you accept their assistance, that you open yourself to the possibilities the corpse emperor would deny you. It begins here in this small, reasonable transaction. The first compromise is always the easiest. Why would you refuse a weapon that could save your brothers? Why would you turn away from knowledge that could prevent a catastrophe? Why would you deny a moment of perfection in a galaxy defined by decay and failure? The whispers that follow are not commands. They are suggestions. They are justifications. They point out the hypocrisy of your masters, the futility of your struggle, the indifference of the galaxy to your sacrifice. They do not tell you to hate the Emperor. They simply ask if the Emperor has earned your unwavering love. They do not tell you to betray your oaths. They merely suggest that some oaths are made to be broken, especially when they stand in the way of a greater good or a more profound truth. It is a dialogue that occurs entirely within the confines of your own mind, the voice of the God indistinguishable from the voice of your own reason, your own ambition. You are not being corrupted. You are being enlightened. You are waking up. Consider Lucius of the Emperor's Children, the swordsman who sought perfection in the art of the duel. The first gift of Slaanesh was not a depraved desire, but flawless skill. His reflexes sharpened, his movements became liquid grace, his blade a blur of silver light that no opponent could follow. He was not a monster, he was an artist. And the duel was his canvas. The praise of his brothers, the awe in his Primarch's eyes, these were his rewards. But the satisfaction of a clean victory began to fade. The whisper suggested that true perfection required a greater challenge, a more profound experience. The thrill shifted from the victory itself to the moment of the kill, the gasp of a dying foe, the exquisite bloom of crimson on ceramite. He began to seek out more worthy opponents, not for glory, but for the sensation. The art was no longer in the winning, but in the feeling. Soon, even that was not enough. The whisper spoke of a deeper aesthetic, the beauty of pain, both given and received. A scar was no longer a mark of failure, but a testament to a worthy struggle, a trophy to be cherished. He began to allow his opponents to wound him, to feel the sharp kiss of their blades, each cut a new note in a symphony of sensation. His search for perfection had led him not to flawless victory, but to a craving for any intense feeling, transforming the perfect duelist into a connoisseur of agony. He did not fall in a single damnable act. He was led, step by gentle step, from the pursuit of excellence to the worship of excess, until the man he was became an unrecognizable memory. Or consider the tragedy of Ahriman of the Thousand Sons, a sorcerer of immense power and noble intent. His legion was cursed by the flesh change, a wave of uncontrolled mutation that dissolved his brothers into mindless, screaming flesh. His primarch, Magnus, accepted this as a tragic but unavoidable price for their power. Ahriman did not. His goal was not power for himself, but salvation for his brothers. This was the crack Tzeentch exploited. The Whispers did not offer him daemonic legions. They offered him knowledge, fragments of lore, glimpses of arcane rituals, hints of a power that could cure the curse forever. The rubric of Ahriman was not an act of malice, it was an act of desperate, misguided love. He sought to make his brothers immune to the flesh change, to preserve their minds and bodies for all time. The gift of Tzeentch was the arcane architecture for this grand spell. And when the ritual was complete, the promise was fulfilled, but with a twist of cosmic irony that only the changer of ways could devise. The curse of the flesh change was indeed halted. Those legionaries with little or no psychic power were rendered immune to mutation, their bodies sealed within their power armor, their spirits turned to silent, spectral dust. The legion was saved by being utterly destroyed, their bodies becoming mindless automatons and their souls eternal prisoners. Ahriman achieved his goal, and in doing so, damned himself and his brothers to an eternity of servitude and sorrow. The greatest triumphs offered by chaos are always its most devastating curses. The journey deeper into damnation is marked by an escalating need. The first gift was a welcome surprise. The second is a sought-after tool. The third becomes a necessity. The warrior who relied on a surge of unnatural strength finds his own power wanting, his muscles feeling weak and slow without the god's blessing. The scholar who tasted forbidden knowledge finds sanctioned imperial lore to be bland and unsatisfying, a collection of lies and omissions. He craves the sharp, dangerous taste of truth no matter the source. The self begins to erode, chipped away, with every accepted gift. The whispers are no longer suggestions. They become a comforting presence, a trusted advisor. The warrior begins to see his comrades not as brothers to be protected, but as witnesses to his glory, or as rivals to be surpassed. The lines of loyalty blur. Is his duty to a distant, silent emperor, or to the power that answers his prayers, that grants him victory, that understands his ambition? This is the stage of true seduction, where the corrupted soul begins to rationalize its own betrayal. The Imperium is weak, decadent, dying. The high lords of Terra are fools and charlatans. The ecclesiarchy preaches faith in a corpse while persecuting those who seek genuine power. The Astartes way of war is hidebound, unimaginative. These are not the ravings of a madman. They are the cold, logical conclusions of a mind that has been shown an alternative. The path of chaos is presented as the path of strength, of freedom, of enlightenment. To serve the gods is to cast off the shackles of a failed empire and embrace one's true potential. For a space marine engineered for greatness and chafing under the heel of imperial dogma, this is a potent argument. Fabius Bile, the chief apothecary of the Emperor's children, saw the Emperor's work in creating the Astartes as brilliant but incomplete. He saw the weakness of flesh, the limitations of the original design. He was not tempted by power, but by the pursuit of improvement, of a new man. Chaos for him was not a pantheon of gods to be worshipped, but a palette of infinite biological possibilities, a force of mutation and change that he could harness for his own magnificent, horrifying creations. He sees himself not as a traitor, but as the true heir to the Emperor's genetic artistry, freed from the moral constraints that hampered his father. His damnation is an intellectual one, a cold and clinical obsession that has led him to commit atrocities beyond counting, all in the name of a twisted form of progress. The point of no return is not a line crossed in the sand. It is the moment one looks back and sees that the shore has vanished, that the path taken has dissolved behind them, and that the only way forward is deeper into the storm. It is the realization that all the small choices, all the reasonable compromises, have forged a chain that can never be broken. And more terrifying still, it is the moment one realizes they no longer wish for it to be. The final transformation, the sealing of the pact, is often marked by a singular, irreversible act. It might be the slaying of a loyalist brother, the desecration of an imperial shrine, or the willing acceptance of a physical gift that marks one forever as a creature of the warp. For many of the traitor legions at Istvan III, this was the moment. Horus Lupercal, beloved war master, first among equals, had his own long journey into darkness fueled by pride, resentment, and the subtle poison of daemonic whispers on Davin. But for the legionaries who followed him, the moment of truth came when the virus bombs fell on their own loyalist brothers. In that screaming, flesh-dissolving fire, old loyalties were burned away. To participate in that slaughter, to aim a bolter at a brother whose only crime was fealty to the Emperor, was to make a choice. It was to declare that the old Imperium was dead, and that their loyalty now belonged to the War Master and the new, glorious future he promised. There was no path back from Istvan. You were either with Horus or you were ash. This is when the physical changes often begin in earnest. The soul, now fully given over to its patron, begins to reshape the body in its own image. This is not a punishment. For the damned, it is a glorious apotheosis. The follower of Khorne does not see his skin turning a brazen red or his features contorting into a permanent snarl of rage as a disfigurement. He sees it as a mark of favor, a sign that the blood god finds him worthy. His armor warps, bonding with his flesh, becoming a second skin of brass and iron. The follower of Nurgle does not recoil as his body bloats with corpse gases, as his skin erupts in weeping sores, as plagues rack his form. He feels a deep, paternal love, a release from all pain and fear. His new form a testament to resilience, a garden of delightful decay. The champion of Slaanesh sees their androgynous, unnaturally beautiful form, their extra limbs or sensory organs, not as mutations, but as enhancements, allowing them to experience the universe with a richness and intensity that dull-sensed mortals could never comprehend. The sorcerer of Tzeentch sees his avian features, his crystalline skin, or his feathered wings as a reflection of his connection to the great conspirator, a mark of his arcane knowledge. The physical form becomes a living icon of faith, the ultimate expression of devotion. The horror is not that they are turned into monsters. The horror is that they rejoice in it. The final state of a champion of chaos is a profound and utter tragedy, for it is the complete annihilation of the self they fought so hard to empower. They trade the rigid servitude of the Imperium for an infinitely more demanding and capricious slavery. The gifts of the gods are never free, the price is the soul itself, paid in installments over a lifetime of atrocity. The Kornate berserker, like Harn the betrayer, achieves the ultimate martial prowess he always craved. He is a whirlwind of death, unstoppable in his fury. But he is no longer a warrior. He is a slave to the rage, unable to distinguish friend from foe. His only purpose to shed blood for a god who does not care from whence it flows. The intellect, the strategy, the brotherhood he once cherished are all gone, burned away in the furnace of endless war. He is not a person. He is a weapon wielded by an unseen hand. The Death Guard Plague Marine, like Typhus the Traveler, has found the immortality and endurance his legion sought. He cannot be killed by conventional means, feels no pain, and fears no disease. But he is a walking plague, a vector of hideous contagion whose very presence brings death and misery. The stoicism that once defined him has been replaced by a giggling, morbid joy in filth and decay. He is a beloved son of Nurgle, but he is no longer his own master. He is a vessel for his god's generative rot, his existence defined by the spread of life and death. The noise marine of Slaanesh has achieved the perfection of sensation he desired. His senses are heightened to an impossible degree, his emotions a symphony of ecstatic agony. But he is a slave to the next thrill, the next crescendo. He can no longer find pleasure in subtlety or peace. He requires ever greater extremes of violence, sound, and depravity to feel anything at all. He is not an artist, he is an addict, forever chasing a high that will never be enough. And the sorcerer of Tzeentch, the seeker of knowledge, becomes a pawn in the great game. A piece moved across a cosmic board by a master schemer. He holds immense power. No secrets that could shatter worlds. But his every action, every supposed triumph, ultimately serves the labyrinthine plans of his patron. He sought freedom from ignorance and found himself trapped in a web of fate from which there is no escape. They are all hollowed out. Their original motivations a faint, dying echo within the roaring presence of the god they serve. They have become masks worn by the warp. Their legendary names and deeds, just another chapter in the long, sorrowful history of damnation. And so the long war grinds on, not just in the eye of terror or on the battlefields of 1,000 worlds, but in the heart of every single living being in the galaxy. The Imperium, in its blind, brutal intolerance, creates the very conditions that foster heresy. It starves the soul, and the soul seeks sustenance elsewhere. It denies knowledge, and the mind seeks truth in forbidden places. It demands sacrifice without offering hope, and the heart seeks a cause that offers a reward. The forces of chaos are not an invading army in the conventional sense. They are a psychic infection, a spiritual plague that spreads through doubt, through ambition, through love, and through despair. The greatest champions of chaos were not born monsters. They were heroes who made a series of wrong choices for what they believed were the right reasons. Horus Lupercal wanted to free humanity from tyranny. Magnus the Red wanted to save his sons and warn his father. Fulgrim wanted to create perfection. Mortarion wanted his legion to endure. Each of them was presented with a problem that the Imperium could not or would not solve, and chaos offered a solution. The tragedy is not that they fell. The tragedy is that, from their perspective, they ascended. They broke free from a system they saw as corrupt and weak, and embraced a power that felt vital and true. They are a dark mirror held up to the Imperium, reflecting its greatest failures. They are the sons the emperor abandoned, the virtues he perverted, the promises he broke. They are a constant, eternal reminder that the line between a loyal servant and a damned soul is razor thin. Now, as the galaxy is torn asunder, as the light of the Astronomicon gutters, and the great rift splits the heavens, the whispers grow louder than ever before. To the guardsman on a forgotten world, abandoned by his commanders and facing annihilation, the voice offers survival. To the inquisitor who has stared too long into the abyss, it offers the power to truly fight the darkness. To the chapter master of a beleaguered space marine chapter, watching his brothers die for a silent god, it offers victory. It does not begin with a roar. It begins with a simple, reasonable question, whispered in the quietest moments of despair. Is this all there is? Is this sacrifice worth it? Is there not a better way? The path to damnation is paved with good intentions. It is a journey of 1,000 small steps, each one logical, each one a seeming improvement, until the traveler finds himself in a hell of his own making, convinced it is paradise. Chaos does not conquer. It converts. And it has all the time in the world, for the gods are patient and the galaxy is full of souls who are beginning to doubt. Souls who are beginning to listen. Souls for whom the first quietest whisper is about to sound, promising them everything they have ever desired. The enemy is not at the gate. The enemy is already inside, waiting only for an invitation.